From CNBC, shares of Tencent fall over 5% in Hong Kong after U.S. designates it as a Chinese military company. Did the U.S. just do that? Designating Tencent? So, doesn't Tencent own Discord? Or do they own like a portion of it or something?
I don't even know what Tencent is.
Tencent is the largest video game vendor.
Oh.
Yeah. This is crazy news. I don't know if I don't know that I know enough about Tencent to actually properly comment on this, but I didn't realize the U.S. had declared it a Chinese military company. That's crazy.
So it has WeChat. Tencent is best known for its messaging services such as Weixin and WeChat. So, I mean, I don't know much about Tencent, but I mean, if it's involved in these types of technologies, then it makes perfect sense that it would be a military contractor, you know?
What's going to happen with TikTok?
That's what I was thinking too. Because now Trump doesn't want to ban it just because he thinks it helped him, but I think that's silly. That's stupid. I think TikTok should get nuked.
A lot of MAGA influencers are heavily invested with their clicks, likes, and revenue streams through TikTok.
So here we go. Tencent has a majority stake in Riot Games. It's got a 40% stake in Epic Games. It's got a minority stake in Activision Blizzard. It owns 12% of Snapchat. It's got a 5% stake of Tesla. It's got a 15% stake in Glue. I don't know what that is. It participated in a funding round for Discord. I don't know how much that means. And it raised $300 million in funding. Reddit got $300 million in funding led from around. Okay, Tencent. Okay, weird, strangely. Tencent gave $150 million to Reddit, according to Reuters and The Verge. And here we go. We actually have the story from The Verge. This is pretty nuts. Yo, this could affect Tesla. Let's talk about that TikTok ban, right? When they said that you can't have ownership, this would force Tesla to divest from anything held by Tencent. This is what people were warning about the TikTok ban. That if we say any company with ownership from these adversarial countries would have to divest, this would put Tesla, Riot, Epic, Snapchat, Activision, Discord, Reddit, all in this position where they would have to find new investors and sell the stake. That's pretty crazy. Look at this. U.S. designates Tencent and CATL as Chinese military companies. This is just reported today. Yo, that's pretty wild. Well, what do you guys think? Should we ban TikTok?
No.
So, put it in Greenland.
No.
It's cold there. It'd be good for the servers.
Well, TikTok is the only social media that the CIA and intel agencies don't have a backdoor into, right? This is China-owned.
No, it's China. Yeah, just Chinese.
Yes.
The CCP has a backdoor.
I know, but I mean, I don't know.
I think that the United States. Now, I'm not saying that we should ban TikTok, although I probably could be convinced that it's not a bad idea. But the United States does need to look at the CCP as a serious threat. It's been there was just just yesterday I saw on the news that there's a Chinese person that was arrested for acting as policing other Chinese people in the United States. That's happened in Canada. I think it was in San Francisco. They had some of it. They had some of that kind of stuff happening in Boston. The whole balloon flying over the U.S. and the U.S. did nothing about it. I think at least the Biden administration for sure has been entirely toothless when it comes to China, and I think that the U.S. really needs to take a long, hard look at the policies towards China. Because
Might have been some financial incentives there.
I mean, I think that's likely, but I do think that the U.S. there's a serious threat from China as a I mean they're an upcoming global power or rising global power.
You know, someone super chatted, Hal Gailey super chatted, under 18, no algorithmic feeds. Now, you got to go more than that. I think there is a real simple solution to a lot of these issues, and it's to treat social media the same as we already treat real life. By all means, go out into the street.
Stuff the nerds in the lockers.
If you
No regrets.
If you go out in public and hold up a big sign of graphic adult material, you're going to get arrested. It's illegal. But if you go on X and do it, they allow it. And there's kids on the platform. So either you're going to ban anyone under 18 from using any social media, and the only thing they can get is a curated feed from Netflix, YouTube, or whatever, Disney Plus.
Yep.
Or you arrest people when they post these things publicly.
Well, they had YouTube Kids, right? And that didn't turn out great. There was a lot of CP that was on that as well. Roblox, it's inundated with that. I mean, evil will persist regardless what parameters you set and how much you want to limit their functionality. Florida, Louisiana, Texas, it's a handful of states that have now made it you have to show your ID if you want to go on adult websites. You have to register with the state. Do I think that's a good solution? I don't want kids to have access to those things, but should you have to register with the state to access an adult internet site as a consenting adult? I don't know. I always struggle with how much power I want to give the government to regulate what I can and can't do as a free citizen.
I mean, that's the whole libertarian take of, the government shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that. Like in principle, I agree. But if the power exists to be involved in these things, then the left's going to take it if the right doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think finding the
Like Teddy
companies who are
Roosevelt.
not setting up specifically for adult websites, they should have their own 2FA system where they're checking for VPNs, they're making sure that it actually is an adult that is registering with these things. I think you put it incumbent upon the companies that they want to be in business of this. It is one of the largest, most profitable industries. They can find some way to navigate this to make sure kids aren't getting on here. Make it incumbent upon them. Don't get the state involved.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I just, like I said, I just think that as long as there is a power that is assumed the government has, if the right doesn't utilize it, then the left will. I think that the government, it should.
Yes.
I would love to see more
Isn't that
people
like a death
assume.
spiral argument, though?
Well, yeah,
where
it
the
is, but
government just gets bigger and bigger?
I mean, we're already way down the slippery slope, man. It's not like
yeah.
like if you could get rid of the Commerce Clause and you could get rid of the necessary and proper clause, then you'd have a different
How about-
argument or different discussion.
Instead
but
of buying Greenland, we just sell California.
The slippery slope moves in every direction.
Yeah.
There is nowhere to stand. So when, I'm tired of this argument where it's like, yeah, but if we, if we censor, if we declare this thing to be illegal, the left will declare our thing illegal. And it's like,
they can do it anyway.
when you don't enforce your way of life, you end up with these graphic adult books in children's schools for 10-year-olds getting these graphic adult content. And then when we complain about it, they lie. Mm-hmm. And we are then forced into a political battle to try and pull the Overton window back the other direction. And the argument then is, but if you go too far, the slippery slope. Now they're saying that Obergefell, gay marriage, will likely be overturned because the liberals are challenging it. The argument is, and I don't know how likely this is, you're going to get some clerk in a conservative state who's going to refuse to sign a gay marriage certificate. Mm-hmm. They're going to sue and lose or win. It's going to get appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's going to say, we don't see why this is an issue for the federal government. Like Roe v. Wade, we think it should go back to the states. Have a nice day.
Well, Obergefell just says that they have to recognize marriage licenses, correct?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Isn't there a precedent because of isn't the precedent that they have to recognize driver's license?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well,
I don't think it matters. The argument is they're going to say why is the federal government involved in whether or not a state wants to recognize or not recognize a marriage?
Well, then the same argument could be made about driver's license. Why is it that California must recognize New Hampshire's driver's license?
Because those are a function of economics and infrastructure.
Interstate.
And marriage is a question of tax code, blah blah blah. The federal government can choose to recognize that, but there is there's another issue. The argument, like there's no correlation between a driver's license and a marriage license.
It's a license.
So what?
How about
So the argument that would be
love.
But listen, it's the
driving a car is
argument,
operating heavy machinery, and marriage is tax code.
So the argument that's the argument that's going to be presented to the Supreme Court, though. If it does if you go to the Supreme Court, they're going to say, well, how come we should how come you will recognize? And the reason I say this is because there's an argument about firearms permits. How come the
This is
U.S.
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah,
because there's a Second Amendment.
You should recognize my CWP when I come to your state.
The point exactly.
Yeah,
the
but
point is
reciprocity, yeah.
No. Any requirement of a permit is an infringement on our rights, period. And the Supreme Court is derelict in when Kavanaugh said you can require permits. No, that's an infringement. Telling me I have to get permission from the government for my right is an infringement.
Yeah.
So there's no argument there.
But you're not going to have me saying that there should be it shouldn't be nationwide constitutional carry. That's what I think it should be. But the arguments will be made to the Supreme Court about
Sure.
the reciprocity
and the
of
point
marriage
is,
license.
the argument
driver's
being made
license.
right now is that the Supreme Court's going to respond much like they did Roe v. Wade and say this issue is not operating heavy machinery. It has nothing to do with permitted use of a large device which can kill people. It's a question of whether or not we apply tax code to two same-sex individuals. That is not a question for the federal government unless Congress passes a law about recognition or blah, blah,
Or
blah.
a constitutional amendment, or
Yeah, constitutional amendment.
So the questions that were brought up in Obergefell were: does the 14th Amendment require a state to license a marriage between two people of the same sex? One, and two, does the 14th Amendment require a state to recognize marriage between two people of the same sex that was legally licensed and performed in another state? So it's a licensing question.
Yes.
No, it isn't.
That's
Listen,
literally what it just said.
I know, but you're conflating licensing with specific things. There's a lot of things get licenses. You have a license to fish. My fishing license in Illinois is not recognized in Indiana.
The argument.
Just saying it's a
argument
license is not the point.
The point that I'm making is this was a licensing question.
Yes.
This was one of the
And
arguments in Obergefell was about licensing.
And it doesn't matter. Because the question is going to be to the Supreme Court, should the federal government be involved in whether or not a state will recognize a marriage? And the argument can be made. The Supreme Court will simply respond the same way as Roe v. Wade and say it's not a role of the federal government.
Question that they're
Or
asking
of the Supreme Court.
Are all the states required to recognize the license?
I understand that. And the Supreme Court will say that it's not a question for the Supreme Court.
I think they
Maybe.
could say that or the other.
It could go
Yes.
any way.
Yes.
The point is we have a conservative Supreme Court that has already said Roe v. Wade was not a question for the Supreme Court. The states should decide. And then when they come out and say the federal government should recognize licenses interstate because they're marriages, they might say, no, that's not a question for the Supreme Court. Ask Congress.
Maybe. I think the argument that I can't predict what the Supreme Court's going to say, but I do think that the argument about licensing, the argument's going to be, well, we do that with driver's license.
But we don't do that with fishing licenses.
Fishing licenses aren't the same thing as driver's license. Fishing
And
license,
driver's license is not the same thing as marriage licenses. You're
Fishing
conflating
li-
things that don't make sense being correlated.
okay.
A gun license is not a driver's license. A driver's license is not a marriage license. A marriage license is not a fishing license. A hunting license is not a fishing license.
But the
These things don't
licensing-
work intrastate.
If you bring a licensing question to the government, to the Supreme Court, they're going to try to use, whether it be a fishing license or a gun license, the argument that the most obvious argument that they're going to make is they're going to say it's a licensing
And the
question.
point is, you have an argument as to why you think it may be, and it's immaterial to the fact. The Supreme Court may say licensing is all different. We're not going to answer a question over what. In fact, I think from your point of view, the argument stands. They would overturn Obergefell under the guise of, if we're going to answer this question that all licensing from the state must be recognized by other states, that means all gun permits are hereby legal in every state, all fishing licenses are hereby legal, all hunting licenses, all licenses to paint your home, all licenses to permits to build your property. We're not going to answer that. That's a ridiculous can of
Electrician,
worms.
plumber, right?
Yeah,
Everything's
a
licensed.
lawyer. It means every lawyer can operate in every single state, but laws are different. They're going to say no. States must determine the within their own jurisdiction what they license and what they don't, and Congress will have to determine otherwise. So if I don't know where we're at with Congress, the point is the slippery slope goes in every direction.
I think what we're coming together, I think they would take that route, kick it back down to the states. It's kind of a Pontius Pilate, washing the hands. You guys figure this out. I'm not getting involved. I think what Phil is arguing is that if they do take this on the arguments that were the original arguments for this, is that if it is a licensing issue, then all licenses should be accepted everywhere.
It's an insane argument.
Exactly. So I do think it'll err on the side of where you're landing. It's going to be that. But the argument that the license should be recognized everywhere, I should be able to have my gun everywhere.
Right. So for the issue of driver's licenses, this is the point about the slippery slope going in every direction. People say we have to let the left say whatever they want because if we ban what they're saying, they'll ban what we're saying. And it's like, okay, well, they've been banning what we're saying. They keep doing it. And then what happens is they operate under that Karl Popper meme of if you tolerate intolerance, intolerance wins. Therefore, we're going to ban everybody we hate. Yeah. And then we keep going, well, we're going to let them keep doing these things, advocating for psychotic, deranged ideology that puts children in harm's way. Here's a slippery slope. When you defend the free speech of the left, you get graphic adult books in grade schools. That's the slippery slope.
So the dissenting argument in Obergefell is exactly what you were saying. Chief Justice John Roberts Jr. wrote a dissent in which he argued that while same-sex marriage might be good and fair, a good and fair policy, the Constitution does not address it, and therefore it's beyond the purview of the court to decide whether states have to recognize or license such unions. So,
And what was the makeup of the court when Obergefell was passed? 5-4 liberal.
90s,
it
right?
was it was 5-4 liberal.
No, it was 2016, I think, wasn't it?
2016?
2014.
Let me see 1 second. It was. Where's the date? 2015, January 16th.
Holy cow.
So yeah, it was.
And
it
now we
was
have a
the lead-
6-3 conservative court
Yep.
that may go 5-4, but I believe that I think we have a very strong possibility that there's going to be a gay couple is going to file in Arkansas. Clerk's going to say no.
Yep.
They're going to sue. They're going to lose. They're going to appeal to a federal court. They're going to win or lose. It'll get appealed by either side of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court's going to say, as John Roberts already did, this is not a question for the Supreme Court. Ask Congress. We hereby overturn Obergefell.
because of the makeup of the court. I think you're right. I think I agree with that because that's already the argument that dissent made in.
And so this is the slippery slope. When you go in the direction of, hey, guys, like, I don't care that gay people get married, okay? Like, I know people who are gay and who are married, and I'm totally fine with it. Dave Rubin's a great example. He's a good dude. He's a friend. He's gay married, and he is against them putting this stuff in schools. You've got Gays Against Groomers, also friends of ours. I don't know if any of them are married or whatever, but they oppose this stuff in schools. But what happens is the left as a large group ultimately moves in the direction of, as they state, their argument is, if a child in a school sees a teacher who has a picture of their gay married husband on their desk, the teacher should be allowed to tell the student. Well, if that's the case, if you're doing sex ed, the children have to be taught about gay sex. Otherwise, you're violating the 1964 Civil Rights Act. That's the slippery slope. So then we say, okay, whoa. No. That's gone way too far. And so we say, pull it back. And we did. We elected Donald Trump. And what happened then? He appointed 3 conservative justices. And now what's likely going to happen? Well, Roe v. Wade got overturned. That's the slippery slope in the direction. There is no point in human society where you stand still and say, this is the happy medium. It's not going to happen.
Yep.
I think we are very likely going to see at some point the Supreme Court's going to be made up the way it is for a very long time.
Yep.
Obergefell is likely going to get overturned. I just think that's as a high probability. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.